Welcome to part two of my epic interview with Daz Smith, legendary remote viewer. Today he's going to talk about a remote viewing project with Tom DeLonge, a UFO remote viewing project with Tom DeLonge, and a whole lot else. So I hope you enjoy the interview. This is part two of my interview with Daz Smith. So without further ado, here it
I'm
is.
just I'm
Bioweapons
just a
can
bit
actually be made.
dismayed really that people don't use people like myself to get a lot more material. But saying that, I have done a couple of paid projects for Tom DeLonge, on
Have you
UAPs.
really? You worked with Tom? Wow. Okay. Tell us about that.
Um I can tell you, well, I don't even know if I should be telling anyone about any of it really, but I won't tell you about one project. One project we worked for him very recently. We did get some feedback off him, and it was for he eventually when we you know when we got the feedback, we knew what the target was. We did it blind, but it was to look at a personal experience of his involving potential UAPs and stuff like that. The other broader target, I worked it with, I think around about 12 or more remote viewers, blindly again. And it was a paid for project, and that was to look at a potential future interaction between members of Tom's team and physical people within a UAP.
What? What? Okay, so okay, I
I can,
guess you
and I
probably
tell you
can't
what,
get
I can
any
even show
details,
you some of
but
that if you want to. Would you like
yeah,
to see some of that?
if you can give us details on that, absolutely.
Bear with me a sec. I just have to find the folder here on my desktop. I have a lot of stuff.
No, that's
Uh,
juicy. I always knew Tom had contact. Or what was it, Tom, or was it just somebody on his team?
uh, I'm not going to say
Okay, okay, sure,
too,
sure.
but I don't want to say too much detail about it.
Yeah. You can't get too far into that. I know.
Yeah. But I can show you a few bits. So this was a target for, as I said, for Tom's people here. He never said I couldn't tell anyone about it, and I've told a few people since. So I had a blank, I had the number here, and that's all the number I had. I have to be honest, as part of this team, because I was a primary contact, I knew who the client was, so I knew I was doing a target for Tom DeLonge. So I am a little bit front loaded on this, whereas the other 11 people didn't know who the client was. But I still didn't know what the target was going to be in any way. Um, so yeah, here's me talking about a structure here, solid, brittle, dense, layered, made of hard grays, and I had an AOL here of bismuth. It's angular, made of metal. Then I was trying to draw a cross section here of the layers of this metal structure, and it felt like it was actually almost like ceramic, or maybe ceramic was the coating on here. But yeah, there's me trying to describe the layers of it and the shape of it. Just some more structural stuff here. Feels like an inorganic material that changes form and possibly even shape. Is a material that bends and reforms when a certain energy is applied, and it feels a bit like Play-Doh. And there's my sketch showing how the structure can actually morph and change shape. So it feels like a solid material that is pulled from one place to another, seeing it malform. Its form and structure then is two places at the same time, but it also has a gap in between these two parts, and it felt a bit like it moved like metal solder. So this is just some sensory data, and there's some sketches of me. So it starts off like this, but then when it moves, it kind of stretches out to a point, and then the back part of it pulls itself towards the point afterwards. So almost like bounces, and then the actual structure feels like it becomes a semi-liquid form. Here's me looking at the hull up close here. So slick, curved, solid, dense, clean, and it vibrates. It's a white iridescent curved structure, and this definitely felt like a hull. Just some more data here. Looking at what am I looking at here? Just the hull itself and the layers. I feel like it's a craft. Just talking about the structure itself here. Some more details about the structure. Again, it starts talking about some more sketches here. So it vibrates from the inside out. Then I start talking about how it moves with the energy system. This target feels like it's an advanced material or structure that, when using a vast amount of energy from inside, it vibrates the layers, creating a semi-transparent physical appearance, like a ghost. I sense that there is also a time component to this, a distortion in time, as the material structure is being pulled or dispersed. So that's it before, and then it goes like that as it's during the movement, and that's it kind of like pings into place after the movement. Just to break down some words here to try to understand what they mean and some other words. And then I was trying to look at the origin of where the people involved in this were coming from, and I had this kind of uh, navigational pathway. So it says here they travel a long distance, but not time long travel. Feels like they stop at navigation points, and these are like of different sizes, and they all involve moons and stuff like that. So it felt. So what I'm trying to describe here is they navigate to here from somewhere else, which is far away. The origin here, outside of something space, code, distance, and vast. Yeah, just details of them here. What am I looking at here? What they're doing here. They're recording readings, checking for damage. They're observing, they're making records, they're planning, doing experiments. There's a definite feel of science, observation of records, numbers, charts, tracking data, making readings, observations, and reactions. They're watching us like we observe life in a zoo. And they're looking at damage, and I tried to break down what the damage would be. What am I looking at here? This is how they travel. So about how the craft travels here. A bit more how they travel in local space. Again, I'm looking at the materials here, trying to look at the a cross section of the hull up close to see what it was made of, with all the different layers. Then I had some weird stuff. I don't even know what this is to do with, but I was being shown all these kind of weird energy type things. And then about how the energy and the vibration works from the craft itself, the engine system within the craft, and then some interaction with non-humans here. And this feels like, in part, a connection between consciousness, energy, and a structure. A symbiotic connection where one feeds off of the other. A relationship, in part, at the moment mechanism, a symbolic kind of life stroke AI thing. A computer. It's strange, but also amazing to see, like a living internet and more. A powered internet that moves. This was talking about the actual craft itself, I think. A sense of transference of the mind body. It feels set free when in travel, as if it coexists with the machine. Symbiotic is a key word from this. The technology, the life, the energy, movement all symbiotically work and integrate. It's not separate. Bit more on the energy there. Energy stuff again. Sorry, I'm spinning through this. And then I start talking about, the non-humans themselves, and start
Did
looking at
you get a
them.
visual of a non-human?
Yeah, and trying to break down how they look here as well.
So
How they're
classic gray kind of, oh, and tridactyl, we got the three fingers.
Yeah, and they had these little suckery. It's not suckers actually. It had like circular kind of weird marks, like micro suckers, but I don't think they sucked. But yeah, something on their fingertips. But
Did they
not.
have thumbs or were they just three digits?
I didn't see any. That's all I got at the time when I saw this one, and I wrote here like an emaciated child, uh, but strong. And what else here? Just about them studying us, and they said it's like tending a garden and stuff like that. Oh, here, this is looking inside the brain, the head. So a cross section, a top down view, and then a side view.
Did you get the impression these were genuine organic beings, or were these, as grays are
Yes.
sometimes described,
Well,
organic robots,
I
created
wrote it
beings?
here. Let me see here. Where is it? This feels like a life more energy than physical, a life that shifts between the two seamlessly, a life connected to everything more than us, like times 1000. It's individual, but also closely connected to a group, a whole, a source. Their mind is like a vast multifunctional organic computer, multitasking on so many layers, but also interacting with them feels so soft and benign. There's no feeling to harm, but they do experiment on us. Although there is a love for us, we can also be seen as an animal, like in progress. not being understood in full yet, and they're collecting, changing, creating new life and species. And Earth is like
They're creating.
yeah, and
You
Earth is
get the
like a
impression
garden,
that
and
we
we are
were a
like
creation.
yes, yeah.
Hmm.
And I said here, Earth is like a garden, we're like flowers, and they are the gardeners.
Well, I do smell good.
Um, but yeah, so it felt like they were yeah, so that's pretty much all the data got on that anyway. But I've had that's very similar data in multiple RV sessions, and it's very clear to most of the remote viewing that I've seen that they aren't like us in that they can be physical, but they can also be non-physical.
No,
You know,
I get that a lot in experiencer accounts that they vibrate down to our dimension from a higher plane of existence, and they phase in and out of our reality at will.
yeah, yeah,
Sometimes I get, sometimes the research will suggest that the bodies are grown for them or made for them to inhabit,
yeah,
for their consciousness to inhabit when they come into this reality. And sometimes they're actually able to materialize their body.
yeah, yeah,
So it sounds like this may have been more like the latter kind. They're
yeah, yeah. Like the craft itself, that could it it sometimes looked physical, but then it wasn't physical. I think they're integrated into that whole process as well, which is why when the craft moves and malforms and changes shape as it's doing its thing, and even changes its density, they can also do that because they are one with the craft, with their suit. Their whole technology is one with everything. There's no separateness. This like I'm speaking to a microphone which is connected to my computer, but they are separate, and I'm separate from it talking to it. If this was their technology, the computer that my microphone's connected to and me talking to it, we are all symbiotically connected in such a degree that we are separate. We're also one living, breathing, thinking component. Their technology is alive. We're only just starting to get there now with like with the AI stuff, that we're starting to think, whoa, this is quite good. AIs can have conversations. Theirs isn't just AIs having conversation. Their technology is actually sentient and alive. I'm talking at the level of the suits and the clothes they're wearing.
amazing.
Everything is sentient.
Their clothes are alive.
Yeah.
Their clothes are alive. Wow. Wow.
As I said, when I looked at the makeup in one of these targets, 'cause I could tell they were wearing some kind of really thin kind of outfit, silvery type outfit. It was like 2 microns thick, but it was symbiotically alive and interacting with them in and the ship. To almost like doing a job, but the way it could do its job best was to have full on communication with everything that was going on around it in this relationship. Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around that. Okay. Um, everything is alive. Their suits are alive. Are they individuated from their suits? Are they
I
part
guess the way
of?
a way to think how it might work is how we're getting now with our mobile phones, our smartphones, and the technology that's involved in that. So it can monitor our hearts, it can play music to us, it can manage our day-to-day life. It can have conversations, answer our questions. Imagine that, but for your jacket, your t-shirt, your underpants, your shoes, your socks, but all of it communicating with each other. So each part of it knows what the other part needs information wise and everything. And not only that, it also knows what everything outside of you that you're connected to needs as well. And it all talks and it all communicates.
That's, yeah. How does that society look? How do you? Do they think of themselves as individuals? Do they think of themselves as part of a unit, as part of a?
Yeah, that's a good question. All the ones that I've encountered so far in RV, no, I don't think so. There's not much individuality that I've seen. Not like we've got it, where we have, I may like one kind of music, you may like another kind of. It's not their. I think their existence and their goals and their technology, because everything's connected. I think I guess that gives them a different perspective, um, and a different pathway through life than what we've got.
Because that's something that comes up again in the research, especially in like near-death experiences. The idea that we may come into this reality to experience a separation in individuality, to express our individuality.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Hopefully, it'll be a long time before I find out. But uh,
I don't know on that one myself. But it does feel like that there is a reason why we're here. I don't know what that is for each of us. Although, I personally think that mine uh, has always been, the path of RV. Because when I first started getting into psychic stuff when I was 14 and 15 years old, I started writing a notebook of my experiences. And, the very first thing I wrote in this, what I call the psychic diary or notebook, was that one day I will find a technique to travel through time and space with my mind. And that was like when I was 14, and I didn't actually find
really,
remote. Yeah, that was
so
so
this
that
was a
would be
life's path. Okay, wow.
yeah, yeah. So that would be like 1983 or 84-ish, and I didn't actually find remote viewing until 1992, and now I've spent all the years ever since learning it, training it, and doing it, you know, to the best of my ability. So I think I found my I'm lucky to have found my destiny or my path. And that seems to have been planned out way before I could even think about it.
That's
Um,
awesome, Daz. I'm so happy for you, and happy that you were able to share this with the rest of us. One
yeah,
thing I
because
wanted to touch on is something you said earlier. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Do you have
no, you go ahead. You go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, I feel quite lucky in the fact that I think I found what my aim is in life, and not everyone gets that chance, really. I can't be certain, um, but that's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, ever since I was about 11, I wanted to be a novelist.
Mm.
And it was many years later until I was able to make a living as a novelist.
Yeah,
But now Cosmic Road has come along and it's really taking a lot of my time, but I'm really loving it. And it's like, have I found a new path or, can I do both?
yeah,
But it's a good problem to have, I guess.
absolutely, yeah, yeah,
But yeah, so something you said earlier was that you were surprised that people didn't use remote viewing to learn more about UFOs, and I totally agree. And I think remote viewing has so many other applications too.
yeah,
I was working with Anita Conan recently, and I've thought about this long before I was working with Anita, but I gave her one target, which was the Langley Air Force Base UAP.
yeah,
And I was blind to the target. I didn't know what it was either because I had just a list of targets that I didn't know which one was which, and I just randomly selected one, and
yeah,
then I gave her the number sequence, and she reviewed it. And but instead of seeing that, as soon as she was bringing up her data, it was clear that it was Nazca, and it was the ancient Nazca. Back
yeah,
back when I'm sure you're aware of what I'm talking about, and
yeah,
and and so she was saying this ancient Nazca, and she was getting so much detailed about this civilization, this culture that's gone. We know very little about the Nazca people. We know some, but we don't know much. She was
yeah,
getting detail that you couldn't find. You couldn't even make up. It was so,
yeah,
so interesting and so detailed, and it was like you were there. It was, it was.
yeah.
I think that the applications for remote viewing for understanding history,
Yeah.
what did
Yeah,
ancient
archaeology could be massive, and it has been enhanced in the past. I don't know if you've ever read there are a couple of very good books on this by Stephen Schwartz, who used psychics to find ancient archaeological sites in the 70s.
wow, what did he find? I'm not real familiar with
I
that.
think they
That
didn't
sounds
find.
familiar, Stephen Schwartz. I know
Yeah, I
I know I've
can't
read it.
remember what they found themselves. It was in the book. Was it Alexandra? I'm sure they found something quite substantive. The remote or the psychic. I can't remember which one it was. It might have been Hella Hamid was literally walking along the site, and she said, "Okay, dig here, and you will find the city," kind of thing. And they marked the spot, start digging down, and as you know, it, they found it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's all documented in the book, yeah. And there are other use cases as well. Like for example, in my past, I don't do it so much now, but I did work on well over 250 missing person cases for United States police forces, and we had a fairly decent percentage rate of helping the relatives find missing people, as a last resort for in that circumstance. So RV can be used in that way. I've also used it on Not so much, but I've used it on some experimental cases of looking at illnesses and medical conditions with great effects on that as well. It's exploratory, but it can't hurt. Used in the right ethical ways. And again, we know we can use it looking at some of the mystery stuff like U.A.Ps and stuff, and it hasn't been used to the great ability of that. And as you know, with future forecasting that I'm involved with, we use it to look ahead at the news for our subscribers. And we also help them, with their investments in gold and markets and cryptos and stuff like that.
Yeah, you do a range of things over it. Why don't let's talk about future forecasting? That's what you're doing now. It's a
Yes.
really great. I'm a member. I don't. I'm not a member of the crypto stuff, but I am a member for the woo woo targets.
Okay.
I,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love your woo woo targets. Yeah, y'all are doing an amazing job. I would
Excellent.
probably
Thanks.
be wealthier if I were following your crypto advice, though.
Yeah, well, we can't say it's financial advice. It's
Right,
literally
right, of
just for
course, yeah.
fun. And I've never had a huge amount of money myself. Because it's hard to live, isn't it? We all have bills to pay. But I'm totally honest in that my investment that I put into crypto based on intuition and what we've done through remote viewing is up 500%. Um,
Wow.
and so it's 5 times what I put in it.
Okay,
In three
I need to
years.
join your crypto viewing.
Yeah.
Clearly.
And we do have statements, and we do have statements from our some of our subscribers that said thank you, you do great work, and we do have them, we have multiple millionaires that we've helped make based on some of the advice we've given.
Okay, and I said crypto viewing, but obviously I'm talking about the crypto portion of Future Forecasting Group
Future
because
forecasting,
you
yeah,
did used to
yeah.
belong to. Oh, can you tell us why do you transition from crypto viewing to future forecasting?
I think it was probably a brand change because crypto is very specifically in one direction, and future forecasting, kind of applies to cryptos, but also news and also woo type stuff. It's got a bit more of a broader reach than just cryptos themselves.
Yeah, and you have your ARV targets, and you have
Yeah, we had the ARV, and there will be more. We got Courtney, and she does tarot card stuff and
oh yeah,
everything
yeah,
on there.
that's right,
We
neat.
have we have the expert Marty Hibbs as well. He's spent 30 years tracking markets and market analyst as well. So he gives great insights on what gold and all the oil and all the seeds and everything else is going to do. He's fantastic at that. So we have a huge range of different things that we're offering, and it's not all remote viewing based. We do have a big message board behind the scenes as well, and a big members website where you can go on and discuss all different types of things from alternative therapies to bug out preparedness, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we just wanted future forecasting. I think the brand change allowed us to talk about and go in a lot more different avenues than just cryptos.
Yeah, it's a great site, guys. Like I say, I'm a member. I guess full disclosure, I'm a member. But I'm a member for a reason. It really is. They do great work.
It's a great community. Yeah, yeah.
Talented remote viewers really are. And your woo woo targets are so fun and weird things I had never heard about. What was it? The wasn't the golden room. It was the amber room.
The Amber Room, yeah. And to be honest, that probably came from my list because I have a list of is now at 130 targets that I want to work, but can't work until someone gives them to me.
Right.
And I also passed the list to the admins at Future Forecasting and said, look, at any time, some of these would be good to chuck into us, if you get the opportunity. So yeah, I didn't know that we were going to do it, but yeah, the Amber Room has been something that I've personally looked at myself, not with remote viewing. It's just something I've been interested in for years. How the Nazis kind of ripped it apart, stole it, and it's never been seen since.
Can you tell us about the Amber Room for those who didn't see your remote viewing on that? Can you tell us about what the lore is on it and what you saw?
Yeah, I mean the actual Amber Room itself. It was in, I can't remember the exact location, but it was in like a Russian palace, and it was an entire room where every surface was made out of really beautiful amber, gold, and jewels of all different kinds, and it was worth literally hundreds of millions. And the Second World War started. The German forces moved in. They seized the palace. They took all the panels of amber, all the gold, everything, all off the walls, packaged it up into crates, and essentially it was packed off somewhere. And to this day, it's never been seen since. There are rumors that that parts of it have been put down, mines here, there, and everywhere. but no one really knew where this, vast treasure existed. So, we looked at it with Future Forecasting Group. I can't remember the data we had, but a lot of it felt like it was underground and water related data.
And it was
Um, you know,
also, it seemed more esoteric, like the function of the amber room.
it could have been a possibility. I mean, all those precious jewels and everything in there, we don't know the real functionality of what some of these how do I call it? Higher, more wealthier people and what they get up to with some of their practices and stuff.
Yeah,
We've all, I'm sure, without mentioning anything, I'm sure we've all seen or heard rumors of some of the stuff that they get up to.
yeah.
And that it's very easy to find records of that throughout history. So it's very possible that yeah, some kind of um esoteric type stuff might have been used in a room of that caliber.
Eyes wide shut, esoteric style.
That kind of stuff, yes.
Yeah,
You know the kind of stuff that I'm on about then,
I know what
yeah.
you're talking. Yeah, yeah.
It's been rumored about for years. We hear it now every now and again, but no one really knows. So it seems like some of that might have been involved as well. And we know as well that the Nazis with Himmler, they had a very big interest in anything esoteric. They traveled the world picking up artifacts. Like the spear that pierced the side of Christ. They
Yeah,
they
didn't
went
they have their own like bureau associated?
They did. They went
Yeah,
everywhere. They looked at archaeology, all kinds of stuff. I guess because they were trying to validate, this master race type thing. But they
yeah,
they did have
right,
a very
right.
esoteric thing going on in the department. Yeah, huge amounts of collectibles that disappeared. Yeah, and have not been seen to this day. And the Amber Room is one of them. Still not been found. Worth hundreds of millions.
Speaking of the Nazis, have you ever remote viewed Operation High Jump?
I haven't.
Admiral Byrd, versus the space Nazis with UFOs in
Yeah.
Antarctica.
No, I
What's
haven't.
the
Again, that would be an amazing one to do a
right?
big project on.
Well,
Yeah.
what's the truth of that? I mean, something happened there. I don't know if it's as elaborate as the tales would make it out to
Yeah.
be, but something happened there. I mean, there's some damaged ships. They went back way before they were supposed to come back.
Yeah.
Admiral Byrd is talking about some crazy stuff. You
It would
know,
it would be an amazing project to work that one. Yeah. Again, it's hard because, as I said, I've got a huge list of targets that I set other people that I want to view myself.
right?
But to be totally honest with myself and everyone else, you can't put them in a pool and then pull one out because I know that it's in there somewhere. So I literally have to wait until sometime in the future that someone picks it and blindly task it to me. And sometimes, as I said, the wait is years and decades. And sometimes I guess, as I'm getting older, I probably never will get to do some of the targets that I've always wanted to do.
Okay, Daz, you've got to do it. You've got to view Operation High Jump. You've got to view all these. Okay, so this is Taskers. Get it done. Get it done,
Maybe
Taskers.
maybe I could be the project, and that's the good thing about Hellfire because it's separate, it's my own kind of
Yeah, you
group
can
of,
give
of
them
people.
targets.
Yeah, I can essentially, that might be somewhere that I can give them to do somewhere down the line
Do
because
you view along with the Hellfire viewers, or is it?
we take it in turns. So we have a rota of you task a target, and then for the next 9 targets, you're a viewer until it comes around again for you to set a target again,
That's a
kind
good
of thing.
system. I like that. I like
It
that.
works well because then everyone gets a chance to get everyone else to look at the mysteries and things that they're interested in. But also, it means that everyone gets a chance at gaining experience at managing a project because a lot of people, and I know they might not be interested in this because it's the admin side of it, but the administration and project management and running, 8 to 12 remote viewers on a project that lasts several months, and each remote viewer giving you 20 to 60 pages of information. Can you imagine that for you get 20 to 60 pages of information and videos from 10 remote viewers? You're talking about a book of information per project that you have to analyze and then put out a report for. So it's good that we had this rota going so everyone gets a chance of experience in what it's like to run a major RV project like that and trying to put out data afterwards in some kind of comprehensive format for people to look at.
Okay, all right. Switching gears a little bit. I was thinking about archaeological uses for RV, and then I remembered the amazing RV that you and Dick did for Courtney for Farsight for the pyramids.
Yes,
And
that
that
was a good
was a
one.
really interesting target. And you were getting some
Yeah.
weird, y'all were getting some weird stuff, aliens, and some of it was kind of
Yeah,
dark. And
I Dick got the alien stuff. I didn't really get alien stuff in mine. I did get what felt like technology that could be uh non-human based because it was too technological for what the people had back then. But I wouldn't, I wouldn't definitely say it was aliens in mine. But Dick did get that. I did get the levitating technology, moving the stone blocks and stuff like that,
okay,
which
it's
was
been
interesting.
confirmed, guys. Daz has confirmed it. They had levitating technology.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, well, if it wasn't levitating technology, it might have been something. Could it have been water? Because that could kind of almost feel like it floats the blocks. It could be water. I don't think I saw water though. Although I, I did in my very early days of learning remote viewing. And this goes to show how individualistic it is for each of us. Every target that I used to do in my very early days of learning with water and I used to miss because, uh, and when I thought about it, it was because personally, at the time I had a bit of a fear of water. I never went swimming. I couldn't swim as a child or anything like that, so I never went swimming or swimming pools or anything like that. And then as a young adult, I taught myself to swim. I'm not great at it, but I taught myself to swim over a period of months, and then since then, I'm perfectly all right with getting water in RV sessions.
Hmm.
And so it just goes to show that what we do as remote viewers is we bring our experiences and life skills into RV as a major proponent of our mechanism in reporting data. And any fears you may have or preconceived ideas, mythologies, religions, anything like that, uh, you also bring those and impose those. We've seen it many times. For example, if you're a person that thinks it would be very bad to remote view a person and go inside their mind and read their thoughts, you generally won't be able to go inside a person's mind and read their thoughts because that's your belief system. So, and
That's
yeah,
where all the
yeah,
juicy stuff is.
yes.
Of course, okay, well, I'm just speculating, but if you can't read somebody's thoughts, maybe you could still interact with them because that's one of the interesting things that is possible in remote viewing is you can interact with people even if it's like a past event.
Yes.
They're still able to see you and sense you and talk to you.
Well,
So, okay, explain that to me. Okay,
yeah,
I
I'm not. I haven't. I've only ever encountered once in tens of thousands of RV sessions, life forms at a target that I've looked at, be able to see I was there, and those life forms were very esoteric people. So that may have been why. Any other one, I've never encountered any interaction
okay,
at all.
okay, all right. Good. I know I've
So,
seen
but
that. It's probably
other
rare.
people might be able to. Again, that might be a hindrance on my behalf. Maybe I have a belief system that it doesn't
Well,
happen for me, so it doesn't.
no, no, you're right because when I'm thinking about it, the examples that I'm thinking about it, they were non-human. Uh,
Yes, I would say all cards are off the table when it comes to non-humans because
yeah,
they
yeah.
seem to have an advanced kind of way of using these abilities that surpass us to a massive degree. But the humans I've only ever encountered once that saw me, and it was actually a target looking at the famous black magician Aleister Crowley.
Oh, okay, okay. Tell us about that.
Well, it was actually a target my mother set me, and she gave it to me blind, and it was to look at a house. So I was looking around this house with RV, and I went down into a cellar, and I was writing all these notes about how in this cellar there was a huge amount of people in the state of undress, all having kind of like ritualistic orgy of sex in
Thanks
every
for the
part of the
target,
room.
Mom.
Yeah, which I found was really weird, what was even weirder was, I could see like I could feel like my subconscious was like high up in the like the top left hand corner of the room. Um, but at the moment I was like looking at them, I had this visual image of everyone in the room, and you're like 30 or 40 people instantly all stopped what they were doing and then looked to the corner of the room where I felt I was kind of like discarnate and hovering. And
Whoa.
at that time, that because I was very early in my RV training, that freaked the hell out of me. And I just like abandoned the RV session, chucked everything on the down. I was like, whoa, what the heck happened here? Where did she send me? And then, I told her about it all, and she told me that she sent me to a house that it was suspected to have been owned by Aleister Crowley, the Black Magician.
That sounds like something he would get up to.
Yes.
He and Rasputin, they had their sex magic or whatever.
Absolutely. And I did the target blind, so I didn't know that that's what I would be seeing or encountering. But that's the only time I've seen what I would class as humans know that I was at a target site.
And that's not a time when you want people to notice you when they're in the middle of an orgy,
No, no, like a psychic peeping Tom, yeah.
I know, right? Right.
Yeah. But yeah,
Okay.
that was the only time. But RV's very strange. But we have to, warn the people out there as well that because there are no limitations, you have to be very careful with RV in that I've seen it demonstrated and I have it recorded, and I've even run experiments where a target is only exists. Like for example, just to test the theory of it, I set a target to 10 remote viewers, which I put the target out on Facebook and said, anyone want to do this, please do it. I gave them a target number, but the target itself only existed in my mind. So I made up a target in my head, and that's the only place it existed. So I made up a target of a fictional UFO event. I did write it down on notepad on my computer here, and the event was a UFO that would land in the field beyond my house. A ramp would come down, and then a little Goldilocks girl, 8 years old, would walk down the ramp with a grey alien. They would both wave. They would get back in the craft, and it would fly off. And it only, so it didn't physically exist. It didn't happen. It was just in my head and on notepad on my computer. 10 remote viewers did that target, and all 10 of them recorded a UFO event. And one of them even had like the word Goldilocks in there,
Huh.
which would be like the little blonde haired girl and stuff. So, yeah, where did they, how does this work? There are no limitations. So, remote viewers can even pull information which are false from not I'm not saying they're going into the person's mind, because once you have a fault, it's out there, it's information in time and space. But the remote viewers can even access that. So we have to be a bit careful with this information, in that sometimes we as remote viewers, and I think this has probably happened to me on occasion for some of my taskers, I might just be reporting exactly what the tasker wants me to report, not real data. We can only confirm what we get as remote viewing with feedback information that comes separately, really.
Yeah, that was my next question. How important is the tasker in all this? And the taskers, because
Yeah.
I've seen some of the safeguards that you've taken, like in your own tasking. Like one time, I thought this was really clever. If you're seeing something that's only in my mind, as the tasker, you're going to see the statue of a Buddha in my backyard.
Yes.
If
Yes.
you're seeing the target, you'll see the target. But if you're not,
Absolutely.
you're
Yeah.
good. I thought that was brilliant. And but yeah, can
I
you
put
tell
in
us
all
tell
those
us how
measures
that
now.
works?
Yeah, the tasker and the intent and the mind of the tasker is critical to this. What we found with science, and not just remote viewing, but science in general, when people working in groups that are working together, is that everyone affects everyone is integrated and affects the experiment. Everyone becomes part of the experiment, um, and the tasker is integrated in that. Like for example, there are some people out there in the field right now that do lots of work. They set tasks for their remote viewers, but you can tell by the tasks that they're setting that they've already made their mind up on what, they don't have an open mind on whether a phenomenon is real or not. It's like, I know this is real, I know this is happening, I'm giving this to my remote viewer. The remote viewer is always just going to give you back what you want in that case, because you haven't got an open mind. You've closed the circuit already. So you have to be very wary of how this is used, if I'm honest with you. You have to have a tasker that has an open mind. They haven't got a closed conclusion. They don't have a foreclosed conclusion on what the target's going to be before you remote view it.
Okay, very important. And you were giving me some advice on one of Anita's videos to keep the tasking as simple as possible.
Yeah, I'm very strict on this. And when I showed you earlier, for example, from Hellfire, um, it was an okay tasking, but there were several different. He wanted three different questions answered. I try in my own work to only ever ask one question at one time. If I want to ask a second question, I will send that viewer back into it separately with a different number and a different question. I find that if the tasker has a cluttered mind on what they really want back from the target, I want to have this, 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 and this, then what they'll get back is they'll get a little bit of this, 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 and this, but they won't get anything solid. So if the tasker knows exactly what they want very specifically, and they focus on that in their intent, then they usually get better data from the remote viewer.
Okay. Okay. I'll keep that in mind next time I do tasking. I think that,
Just ask yourself, what is the single most important, very specific thing I want to know about this target?
and how much of like effort does the tasker need to put into it? Like mentally, like to link the target, like the sequence of numbers with the target. Do I have to like really work hard to think about it and to
No,
link
just
it?
write it down on a sheet of paper or on your computer or somewhere where you keep a record of it. And just for a couple of seconds as you're doing it, really put your intent into it. Okay, this is what I want the remote viewer to get. I want them to get A, B, I want to get question one. I want them to get this, and please, and if they're, I write other things. I'm quite complicated in the way I task it now. I write things like the remote viewer is to move to the optimum time and place to describe A and get me this data. They are to ignore any preconceived ideas I have as a tasker, any myths, any social constructs, or anything that's not actually the real physical target data that I want. So I'm quite specific on what I write to try to remove all other possible routes of information from infecting the data that I get back. But I've done this after tens of thousands of experiments now. So I've honed in on intent, because intent is the driver. Your intent, if you're the tasker, your intent is the one that drives the RV session.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and the
All right.
more clearer, the more direct you are with that, the better data you get. But you don't have to spend hours doing it. Literally, just a couple of minutes as you're writing it down. Really think this is the data I want. I don't want anything that's not real. And then it literally can only have to take you a minute or two to write that down.
And it's not just the tasker that could be the problem. It could be the story around a target,
That's why I write in my tasking cues now. The remote viewer is to ignore any social construct, any myth, any preconceived ideas, and only, and I underline only or make it big, only get the real physical data for this target.
I think that's really smart. And I think that's from a lot of experience on your part too.
Yeah. Because as I said, I've seen people pick up social construct stuff, because for some targets, like for example, I don't know, I'm trying to think of one. Well, yeah, like the pyramids one, for example, that's a great target. But there's so many videos, there's so many books, there's so many podcasts, people talking about all the different theories about how the pyramids have been made. It's quite possible for a remote viewer and a tasker that aren't focused together and working cohesively as a team to accidentally include all those theories and have them picked up by the remote viewer, unless they can find some way to stop all that. Because as I said, a remote viewer can access all information, which is everywhere, and a tweet and what that tweet involves on Twitter is still information. It's still part of human kind of interaction. It could be picked up and reported on.
Okay. Okay. Different subject. Okay. What is the remote viewing that you've done that has impacted you the most?
Oh, oh, that's a good question. Impacted me the most. Well, there's no single case. I think it's been like an effect of all of it, really, because uh it's shown me the size and scale of the universe, just how big it is. And it's also shown me that don't like to put a name to it, but it has shown me through some of the experiments, and they are online so people can see these. It has shown me that there is some kind of very strange underlying force or being, I don't know if being's the right word. There's something behind everything. I don't want to put a word onto it like God or anything, But there does seem to be some kind of thing like that, some kind of intelligence behind everything that's going on. Um,
Source.
yes, so it's that really some kind of I don't the God's not the right word for it, but there is some kind of source intelligence that seems to be not manipulating. Manipulating is not the right word. Guiding and using and moving us and other things in the universe. Um, yeah, it's not random. There is a structure there which has an intelligence behind it. That's the easiest way I can say it. I tried to describe it in some RV sessions. So that's what it showed me. I've never, well, I mean, like most people, we've played with different religions as we're growing up, going through schools and stuff like that. I've encountered quite a few different religions. I don't class myself as a religious person, other than all this cumulative RV has shown me that there is some kind of, yeah, some kind of informed, intelligent, living structure that's there, which is bigger and more intelligent and higher and more spiritual than I am. And I don't know how to describe what that is, but that's what it's showing me.
Well, I study near-death experiences, and a lot of near-death experiencers who have encountered what we might think of as God refer to that being or whatever it is as source.
Yeah,
And that's how they refer to whatever they're interacting with. Uh, those who do interact with
yeah.
that,
That's a good
whatever that
word.
is.
Yeah, I would go with that. That word seems more appropriate than some of the other ones like God or angelic or something like that. It's different than that. Yeah, source is a good word for it.
I like source because it takes the religion out of it. Uh,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know, because I was an atheist all my life until a few years ago when I started having, experiences,
Mhm.
and and I've seen the truth, or not the truth, but the well, the real underpinning behind several different religions, like the
Yeah.
spiritual, there's something there to several different religions, and I've seen some of that,
Yeah.
a little bit of that. I don't want to oversell my experiences, but I've seen some stuff, and it's been
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it seems to validate the underlying spirituality or essence of a few religions. But I would love it if I could figure out a way to determine what's the real spirituality, removing the religious part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You look at Hinduism, there's so much there. It's so complicated. It's so complicated. I wish real, Christianity, all of them have their religious framework. And
Yeah.
I would love to be able to just, what's the core of it? What's the,
Yeah.
so frustrating. What's,
Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely. Yeah. And I've encountered pretty much the same thing really. Um, I did a remote viewing session. Someone tasked me with a remote viewing session probably about 2 years ago now, and it's on. I have a YouTube channel called Remote Viewed. I don't know if you've ever seen that one. Remote
no, I haven't seen
Viewed.
that.
Uh,
I don't think I say that. I may have seen it, but yeah.
it started off during COVID, because no one could meet. So I ended up doing these Friday night RV chats where I used to get the top people in RV along, and we used to interview them. So there's hundreds of so it's on YouTube. It's called remoteview.com. There's hundreds of the interviews, but it's also got all my best RV sessions live on there as well. So you can actually see me live doing Area 51, live doing Roswell, Phoenix Lights, all that kind of stuff. But one project someone set me a couple of years ago was, why don't remote viewers win the lottery? Because you know, although some people have won small amounts, most of the best remote viewers that I've tracked throughout remote viewing history, going back 40 odd years now, including people like Joe McMoneagle, Pat Price, Ingo Swan, luminaries, uh, they've never been able to find out how to win hundreds of millions of dollars. So it felt like there was some kind of reason behind stopping this. So that was the target. And interestingly, I managed to work through that. And you can have a look at me this video of me going from my RV session actually on that remote viewed. Um,
I actually did see that. I did see
you
that.
actually saw that, and I
I saw
actually
that. I saw it.
followed
That
that
was
back.
fascinating. That was
Yeah, I
fascinating.
followed that back to what I call the source as well, which was through this deep, dark, kind of like, yeah, very super dense, like black hole type part of space where this source that had this intelligence live. So yeah, that's what started it off, was looking at that, and the JFK, seeing JFK as he died, kind of thing. So it, yeah. So to answer your question, is for me, it's a combination of all these. It showed me that there's something a lot bigger than us as individuals. But I still can't say to any affinity what any of this is.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm still as
And
blind as I
also,
start.
well, anyway, I don't want to go on a tangent, but I think that it's just so wonderful that you've been able to see reality in a way that most people don't get a chance to see. And we all have this ability, although I think that, you said your mother was a medium too, or a psychic.
Yeah, she was a clairvoyant, medium, healer, pretty much all of it. Yeah, yeah,
So,
and I think someone before her in the family was as well. It's a bit like the Star Wars thing. The Force flows through the family kind of thing.
it
Yeah,
seems to work like that. It seems to work like that.
definitely. Yeah, yeah.
Because I was going to say we all have this ability, but then I thought, dads may have it more than we do. You know,
Well, yeah, I'm not sure if I do. I'm not sure if any of us do. I think, but what we do have as humans, and as I said, is we have we have our own baggage and internal blocks. So if we believe something, like if you believe, like there, and I was the same for many years. If you believe it's wrong to make money from your intuitive skills, then you there's a block. You won't make money from your intuitive skills. So I believe there's a lot of that going on with every single one of us, and there are probably hundreds of millions of people out there that just haven't experienced what we've experienced, or haven't, they have the blocks because of society, religion, the way they're brought up, all that kind of stuff, is stopping them. But if you could remove the blocks, I think everyone has an amazing ability, and I think that from my research, that's why. We're such a big thing for the U.A.Ps that are studying us as well. They know what we can do. They know the capabilities of what we really have, and that's why they're hybriding us because of these capabilities. But some of them are more or also impeding these capabilities. But that's the real reason why they're interested in us is for our consciousness abilities, not for our physical abilities.
okay, so they're Okay, so all right, that's fascinating, Des. All right, so they're interested in it, but they created us. So did they create
Well,
us to have these
bear
abilities?
bear in mind that's a broad stroke.
Okay, right, true. I'm just
Someone out there, non-human, we don't know if it's alien, interdimension. Someone out there claims that they created us, or maybe multiple parts of them out there created different ones of us. Because look at the variations of us, for example. In colors, shapes, forms, sizes. So there might have been a lot of manipulation by a lot of different entities, non-human, non-physical, alien, interdimensional, we don't know what, at many different levels with many different agendas.
Yeah, and that's a good point about them claiming they created us because
Yeah.
I have actually come across, I want to say five different scenarios where beings have told people they created us,
Yeah.
but in like five different ways.
Yes.
And I've
And
come,
everything to do with the esoteric, and even this goes on to the classical stuff that we talked about earlier as well, with the different life forms out there, good and bad. There are huge amounts of life forms out there in the classical space and probably within other spaces as well that that lie. They tell you things and they just don't end up being true. But that may be because they have an agenda which they don't want us to know right now, kind of thing.
what is your feel? What is your sense of them? Are they goodly? Are they disinterested scientists? Are they tricksters? I'm sure it's all of the above,
Yeah, I was
right?
just about to say it's all of those and more. Again, as humans, we try to condense everything down to black and white, good and bad. It's not like that. Some are good, some are bad, some are intentions for us,
I
some
want it
have
to be
intentions
simple,
for
Des. I
themselves.
want it to be simple.
Life isn't simple. I
Now
mean,
you
it,
tell
it,
me.
it would be like going out in the street and getting 100 people and putting them in a room and then trying to split them up between good and bad, where it would just wouldn't happen like that. There'd be various stages of gray in between all those.
Right, right.
And everyone would have a different intention, a different pathway in life, a different aim. And it's like that. We can't we can't pigeonhole this kind of phenomenon into one of two different categories, good or bad, black or white, gray kind of thing.
And I'm sure
All I can tell you is that they are, although they're not, they're discussing it. Some of them and it might not be all of them. Some of them are very interested in the human capabilities of our consciousness, and what it can do, and the fact that it can do things that they can't do. And I think we do have untapped capabilities that maybe, I mean, we know socially it's been hindered, but there are even possibilities that remote viewers and other people have talked about, that there may be physical devices and mechanisms that are also hindering what we can do with our conscious ability.
That's scary. That's scary.
It is kind of scary. I don't know if you saw the I published an art, not an article. I published a magazine called I published it called Eight Martinis. It's a remote viewing magazine, and a couple of years ago, I
I've heard you
found
talk about it. I don't think I've seen it.
it's on a website called 8martinis.com. I think there are like 19 issues there people can have going back like 15 years now, where it's packed full of free remote, and it's free downloads. So it's packed full of loads of remote viewing information, history, interviews, and whatever. 2 years ago, I found a remote viewing session Ingo Swan did, where he went back to the moon remote viewing wise to talk to some telepathic non-human entities there, and it's got the entire RV session there. And he details at the time that on the far side of the moon he encountered this race of telepaths using technology, and he said at the time the area he kind of psychically wandered into had two different types of telepaths sat down. One set were being used defensively to stop people from interacting with what was happening on the moon, and he said the other half of the group of telepaths were being used offensively, but he didn't go into detail on what they were being used to do and stuff. So, there are reports like that, and we even have reports from Pat Price from the early 70s where he allegedly saw four bases here on Earth and non-humans in these four bases, and I mean, I got the document myself. It's never been released, but I got the document off of close friend Harry Putoff. He draws and details psychic detection devices of how if you go to one of their bases, they then identify you as a psychic, track you, and can stop you using these devices. He even draws these devices and all this kind of stuff. So this technology may be out there.
I think that he saw a little too much, maybe.
Well, he didn't last too much longer after he went working for the CIA, did he? I think he
No, no,
lasted
he
6 weeks.
didn't. He didn't.
There's a lot of rumors behind all that, but it is a very murky story, I have to be honest.
What are your thoughts on it? Just the Men in Black taking him out, or
Um, oh, I think either one of two scenarios happened. I think he started disseminating this stuff about UAPs, which was quite detailed, and it was too early, and it was too much. And we know from, if you go into a U.A.P history, like I have, I started looking into it in '89 onwards. There are quite a few cases back through recorded history of people investigating UAPs that have accidents, heart attacks, and all kinds of stuff.
right? Yeah.
So I think it could either be that, or it could be that he got himself in a bit of a mess because he was a Scientologist, and in the early days of Scientology, they had this mechanism where you had to have meetings with people in Scientology, and you had to tell them all your secrets, and then it was be a good way of like relieving all the bits and pieces within yourself in a process. So that there is good evidence that I've seen that although he was working for CIA and SRI at the time, he was actually telling his Scientologist handlers all the stuff that was going on. And there's also a connection to Russia as well with all that. So yeah, there's that scenario. Either he got caught passing information that he shouldn't have done, and then he was taken out because of that, or because he got too close to the U.A.P thing. That's my opinion.
That's a tangled web. That would make a good RV
It's
target.
it's a crazy, crazy mess of data and information out there. Like for example, this document that I'm talking about, we haven't released it because it's just not been appropriate. But Harry Putoff and a few others, they've kept secret for 40 odd years a 47-page RV document by Pat Price, where he goes. I mean, some of its parts have been released in the past, but these 47 pages haven't. So there's this entire 2 years worth of RV sessions, 47 pages of detailed information from Pat Price about, a war, and he actually details warring alien races that are working on the planet here. And this was from 1972. And then he goes into great detail about how he looked at every facet of human society, including, and he goes into detail about the different religions, the different universities, the different parts of American government and everything. And he actually details which departments and department heads have been compromised. Um, so he names people in positions in this document.
He's lucky he
Um,
made it out of the building alive.
I know.
I mean,
Well,
it just
yeah,
that first day.
yeah, and there's other stuff as well. Like at one point, he says, "Oh, today I was a bit bored, so I decided to have a look to see what was happening at Bermuda Triangle." And then he goes on for a whole page detailing about how there's a non-human technology that can freeze a plane or a vehicle in place, and then it can um, they hijack and take the life forms that are on that vehicle. They then dematerialize that vehicle, and then he goes into detail about how they then experiment and take the organs out or transport those humans back to other places for other research and work and all this kind of stuff. And this is 1972, so he's talking about human mutilations in 1972 that are happening and stuff.
That's some
So
scary stuff, man.
so I can understand why it never made it into the public, and I'm not putting it out there. I don't feel appropriate for me to put it out there. But it might be coming out very soon, this document. But it might have been for reasons like that. As I said, I know the history of UAPs and UFOs. This kind of stuff was not, human mutilations were not being, and humans being killed by non-humans were not being talked about in 1972
Right.
by
It's rarely
someone with,
talked about today.
absolutely, yeah, and someone with the credibility and the track record of Pat Price as well.
Yeah, that's dark and scary stuff. I wouldn't want to view that. Are there things as a viewer that you just don't want to view? Because I know
Oh,
you're at a move. You're at an
yeah,
emotional remove from it, right? So I
yeah.
think, right?
I mean, when I did the 5 years of missing person cases, I wanted to help people. I wanted to help people find their
Yeah,
missing people and families and stuff. But several hundred of them over a period of 5 years becomes quite dark because the vast majority of the people you look at have been raped and murdered and mutilated and all kinds of stuff. So
can't imagine.
the accumulation of that becomes quite dark, and that's why I probably haven't gone back to it since. I would do it again, but on a probably on a bit more of an ad hoc basis of here and there, so that it didn't have such a dark effect. So that can take its toll a little bit. That kind of work.
Did you help save some lives though?
I can't say I helped save lives, but I did help in several cases in finding
What?
the missing people. But
Okay,
they in the majority of them, well, no, in all of them they were deceased. But
okay,
that also helped the family in some way, because at least they the case it was resolved. They had a body, they could bury the person, that kind of
absolutely. You
thing.
brought closure to grieving
Yeah,
families.
yeah. I can say I can say I gave closure, but I can't say I actually saved someone who was missing, and they were found alive. As I said, the vast majority of them were pretty much dead or already. Yeah,
Yeah.
because we were used. Yeah, and we were used with the police. The police actually asked us to work on the cases, so it was always pretty much last resort kind of situation in
Man,
that.
if you could tap into that future viewing, to prevent, kids from getting snatched, that'd be amazing.
That creates an interesting scenario, doesn't it? Because
There was a Tom Cruise
how
movie
can you
about that.
view it? How can you view it if it never happens?
Right. Yes, right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
So,
paradox.
I mean, and
Maybe.
it is possible, and as you've probably seen, well, you saw with the Israel situation and stuff. Many times in the past, I've done RV sessions where I've remote viewed, things like terror attacks and stuff, weeks and months before they happened, and then they happened exactly as we've remote viewed them and stuff. What's to know, that some of the stuff we put out isn't acted upon. I've actually spoke to some people, and we've had third party people come to us at future forecasting and say, your stuff is taken quite seriously. People do look at it, they possibly do act upon it. So some of the stuff that we do, and we think, when we say, oh, we think there's going to be a terrorist attack next week, maybe in such and such place, and then it doesn't happen, it
Right.
might just be because someone's acted upon it rather than, the fact that we got it wrong.
That's tricky. That's
It is.
tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what you do with that.
No, all we can do is just keep doing what we're doing and, tell people it's experimental. We're just doing our best. Everyone's that's what we do with our subs, as you know. We're like, it's experimental. We thank you for helping us and paying us to do this kind of stuff. It's just a big experimental project. Here's the information. Look at it on your own merit, see what you can do with it, see if we're accurate or not. It's just one big experiment. None of us know the answer to all this. We're all students. None of us are
I
experts.
love it, Daz. I'm part of the experiment. I'm part of the site. I'm happy to be there. I think y'all are getting great data. I've kept you 2 hours. Thank you so much for joining us, Daz.
It's
Is
been
there
great fun.
anything that people should know about current or future projects that you're engaged in that people should know about? People should be aware of ways to contact you, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. If they want a free magazine, there's 19 issues of 8 martinis on 8martinis.com. I have a vast website called remoteview.com, and there's loads of stuff on there where they can learn, they can learn this themselves very easy in a matter of hours. Um, and the YouTube channel remoteview.com literally has hundreds of hours of interviews with the top people in remote viewing, and that might answer any of their questions that they need. It's all out there for free.
All right. Thank you, Daz. This was an amazing conversation. I hope to have you back on the show someday.
Anytime, it's been great fun.
So everybody give Daz a shout out, give him a thank you in the comments section and all that kind of good stuff.